got two of our reserve Shiraz here open today. This is the current release, the current vintage, and this one is 11 years older. So quite a big difference in age. They both look absolutely stunning. I'm going to hold up some white paper so you can see the difference in colour. This one's a lot sort of, what would I say, really bright, sort of vibrant red. And this one, when I swirl it, you see it a bit more. It's a bit more of a brick red colour, a little bit more muted. And that's what happens with wine as it gets older. You tend to get more of a brick red colour as opposed to that vibrancy. So on the nose, the current release is looking lovely. Look, our Reserve Shiraz has a very characteristic sort of nose and flavour to it. Both the wines have been grown in the same vineyard. It's all in the gully section, so it's the lowest part of our vineyard and also the lowest part of the Swan Valley. What that means is that the cool air pools down there, and that's particularly important in those weeks while the grapes are sort of ripening. So we've got cool air pooling there, so it could be a degree or two cooler for an hour or so every morning. If the sea breeze comes in, it will come up the river and again pool down there in the Shiraz. So it might be half a degree cooler for an hour in the evening. The soil's also quite different in that part of the vineyard. That's where we plant our Shiraz down there, and it's in very clay soil, so it's kind of a river floodway. So in winter, sometimes the Swan River can rises up, breaks its banks and actually runs through there, so it's a very clayey soil. So it's quite difficult to establish the vines, but once they're established, they grow really beautifully. We don't get too much yield off them, which is important, so we get higher quality. So looking at the nose, our characteristic nose, which you can get off both of them, is very mulberry, blackberry, blackcurrant, those really rich dark fruits. Now Derek does put them in a lot of our Reserve Shiraz in a lot of oak, so it goes into half of its brand new oak, half of its 1-year-old oak. And he does that so the oak doesn't overpower the fruit flavours. So in the young wine, you get this beautiful sort of rich red fruits, as I said, but also some of that lovely oak, so it's quite toasty, chocolate sort of mocha flavours as well. So it's almost two sort of flavour spectrums, and it's quite a youthful on the palate. Now, having said that, we release our Shirazes, we give them a bit of age, so they can be 2 to 4 years old when we release them. And this is looking lovely. It's really vibrant, it's really rich, that you've got the lovely oak coming through on the finish. Whereas the aged one, so this one is now 13 years old, it looks lovely, smells beautiful. We've still got that really intense sort of mulberry, blackberry, but there's a lot more oak coming through. And that really, it's not that there's more oak, it's the same amount of oak, but it's that aging that's coming through. It's just softened it all and brought it all up. Now I'm finding a lot more licorice on the palate. You haven't got that separate fruit and then oak sort of flavours. It's all melded into one. It's just a beautiful, rich mouthfeel. And I'm getting, as I say, a lot more licorice on the finish. But that's looking beautiful. Now these wines are not really standing around having a drink sort of wines. Much better with some food. So even if you've just got a hunk of beautiful cheese, would be fantastic. But really something a bit richer. You know, there's steak, something slow roasted in the oven, any of those things, but a big meal. When you're matching food and wine, you want to match the weight of the wine with the weight of the food. So because these are big wines, and as they age, they get bigger again. If you're having that older one, you really would want to be cooking something